I think the timing was such that I'm coming in seeing that the seminary is the support. The seminary is not the thing.
Yeah.
The church is the thing.
Yeah.
And, having pastored, having seen God work among the nations, I think I've got that in my bones, at least right now.
Yep.
We can pray that continues.
Welcome to this episode of Theologically Driven. We're excited to have Jeremy Pittsley on the podcast today, who's the newest member of the faculty here at DBTS. So we're looking forward to having him in classes and as part of our faculty, speaking at E3 and those types of things. Speaking of E3, we just announced recently that our E3 conference this year, the title is Leading Through Change and Conflict, and registration for that is now open at e3pc.org. We also have an early bird price going on right now through the end of August, so you'll want to go ahead and get registered so you can get that price. We look forward to hopefully seeing you there at E3 and enjoying sessions from different speakers and workshops from the faculty and other outside speakers that'll be announced soon. So we hope you'll go to e3pc.org to register. Now let's welcome Jeremy Pittsley to the podcast. Jeremy, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we are very excited for the new semester coming up and for you joining the faculty here at DBTS. Why don't you tell us first off, what will you be teaching and what's your role as professor here?
Well, they gave me the title of Professor of Biblical Languages and Literature. So I'll be teaching Greek and Hebrew this coming semester.
Okay. So Greek 1 and Hebrew 1?
Yeah.
Or are you jumping into the middle of any of the tracks?
Sure, yeah. I'm jumping into the middle of the Greek track. So Greek 3 and Hebrew 1.
Yeah, this is a good, just a side note here for those who might not know. We have the professors follow the students through Greek. So if you start with you in Greek 1, you have you all the way through both 2 years, same with Hebrew. So it's you and Dr. Meyer and Dr. Dunham rotate out the Greek and Hebrew.
Exactly.
Do it that way.
Yep.
So that, you're not getting interrupted after grammar 2 and now having a new professor and having to learn his ways of doing things. You follow
Same professor all the way through 4 semesters.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that feature of the program. So you were a student here, so you actually got your MDiv. Did you do your THM while you were here?
Yep.
Okay, so MDiv and THM. Think back to those days. What brought you first as a student to DBTS?
Several things. One, Pastor Doran, Dr. Doran, was known at Northland, where I was a Bible college student. So we were grateful for sound exposition whenever we could get it. And we could always count on Pastor Doran, so somebody that we looked forward to hearing. And my roommate for 2 of the years at Northland was a graduate of the high school, and his Bible teacher was a graduate of the seminary, and there was probably hardly anything better to recruit someone like me, but to see somebody who was so fluent in the scriptures from this high school. Mm-hmm. And we had some pretty heated theological debates, and he usually came out on top. And
nice.
And over time, he invited me to the MACP early 2000s, so that was found helpful. And then probably more than anything else, what brought me this direction was seeing the God-centered approach to missions through Missions 2000 and the Student Global Impact during that time. That was just such a draw.
You came as a student to SGI and those things?
Yes, yeah.
What was that? Tell me a little bit about that, because I wasn't around for those. So what was that like?
Well, especially toward the beginning, there was such a zeal. It was mostly students. As it went on, many of us actually got to the mission field, and that kind of changed the dynamic. But as students, we were really excited about diving into missions, knowing that God was in this for his namesake, and Christ had promised to build his church, and every kindred, tongue, people, and nation would have those before the Lamb on the final day. And so we were excited to see God work, and the preaching there was so helpful, and friendships developed there that continue to this day. So that was something that was really helpful. And one of the things that we got to see was Intercity loving on us, accepting us as their own kids, and welcoming us into their homes. And that was just I think Pastor Doran has said that they did that for the students. They didn't do that for Intercity. But when I heard him say that, I always thought, but it was, it really did draw us toward Detroit and toward Intercity.
Yeah, there's a whole host of guys who our church now supports. And when I've asked them similar things, like, how did you first get connected here? They all point back to SGI and how much it just seems like it had a real impact in their lives, and their view of missions and wanting to serve God that way. So while you were here, so you get connected through MACP, SGI, you come here as a student. When you think back about your time as a student in the seminary, what professors or classes do you think probably had the most impact on you?
I have told people that I am most at home in the classroom. Wherever in the world that has been, the classroom is where I love to be. So it's hard to pick. And of course, after 23 years, they start to forge together into one big impact rather than a bunch of small ones. I think standout classes, English Bible class, Romans with Dr. Combs. And I think that was, the impact of that was sharpened actually by Reformation theology. I think it was Reformation theology or Reformation church history with Dr. Priest. And you can see there's some overlap in the message of those two classes. And I think they kind of worked together. Interestingly, also Dr. Priest's church history too, and apologetics. You've got covering Aquinas and medieval theology, and on the other side you have Van Tillian kind of critique of that view, and those two together, really the church history was very valuable to me. I feel like people undervalue church history in general, but Dr. Priest, I feel like, discipled me in a historically informed Baptist ecclesiology that has really shaped a lot of my outlook for the following years. Dr. Compton.
I was going to say that's how you know that you were destined to be a seminary professor, is that you like church history 2 and not 3 better. Because whenever you ask guys about, and this is just for the previous seminary students who listen, but whenever you ask about the church history classes, it's always church history 3 was my favorite class, and not that I hated church history 2, but that was the most difficult one. I remember it being the most difficult one because everyone's name is Gregory, and it's hard to remember who's who, and it's a huge span of time. But no, that's great. The church history can oftentimes be undervalued, so it's helpful to have that foundation in those classes.
I think Dr. Compton's exegesis classes, Greek exegesis classes, I'm using stuff I learned there this month in my writing my dissertation. I've got a New Testament chapter that I'm writing, and so it continues to be useful. Dr. McCabe passed on a love for the wisdom literature, and I've heard on the podcast Kyle's love for Ecclesiastes, and I think Dr. McCabe passed that on to all of us, and the whole view of life in the wisdom literature that has really, he's really shaped my marriage, ministry. Yeah,
that's great. During your time here, now, if you were involved in SGI, maybe you were thinking before DBTS, but what started to move you towards we want to go to the mission field? That's kind of where we see ourselves going.
I went to Northland really because I was already headed that direction. So 17 years old, and probably at the time had some understanding that this is just what godly people do. And if you really wanted to follow Jesus, you're going to go to the mission field. I think I got that theologically ironed out, but a desire to serve God cross-culturally continued. So Northland was a draw because it was known at the time for that, and DBTS was a draw because of Missions 2000s and things like that, Mission 2000 and things like that. So that came about early on, and a pastor friend of mine encouraged me to read a little pamphlet that said that the future of missions on many missions field is leadership development. So I don't really know anything about missiology. I get this little pamphlet at 17 years old, and it, essentially that's the shape that my life has taken since then.
Right. Yeah, that's good. How did Kenya start to, as you begin to narrow in? You were in Kenya the whole time, right? So how did you move towards that field?
So we were originally thinking Western Europe and narrowed down to the UK. So we were thinking about that. I actually visited with my wife, and we had a missionary that we had started meeting with who was going to be a mentor. He's a missionary there in the UK. And we were looking forward to joining that when Dan Hofstetler started recruiting folks for Kenya. And when he presented at Intercity at one point, I remember after the evening service, Jenny and I were at home, and I said something like, it would be fun, or how cool would it be to join Hofstetler in that? But we were already on this other path toward the UK. Well, a couple of the pastors at Intercity kind of nudged us to consider that a little bit further.
Yeah.
And I visited in 2007, early 2007, and we were immediately back, Jenny and I, in later 2007. I visited again in 2008. So by the time I graduated with the THM, I was headed for Kenya.
Was Dan already there on the field by the time you were visiting?
We were meeting together. He was here.
Okay.
And then he was on the field, I think by late 2010, he was in East Africa, or early 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you finished up in 2008, your THM. What did the timeline look like after that to raise support and then move to Kenya?
We raised some of our support in the Southwest U.S. and there we had a whole new network to get to know there. So that took a little bit of time. We were slogging through that when we got an opportunity at the end of 2010 to spend a year in Zambia.
Okay.
With Central Africa Baptist College at the time, university now. And that was just a great opportunity, just to put my hand to the plow, get to work, to do the thing that I had been longing to do and loved to do. And that actually enabled us to give the churches some time to ready themselves for partnership. So I returned in 2013 to Kenya.
Okay. Yeah. So what were the early days of ministry like there in Kenya?
We did a few months of language study in Swahili and got through a segment of curriculum. It was enough to get by. Not really fluent, but most of our ministry is in English because education in Kenya is in English. So I started teaching in the pastor's school that Dan had really just started there. And
was that now? So these are some of the details I don't even know. Was there a church already established there, and then you guys came along and started the pastor's college, or how did that work?
Right. Early 2000s, the church was started. I forget the year, but Joel Weaver had become a member of Intercity and supported by Intercity, and he was the church planting pastor. And he passed it off in 2015. So we were there while he was still pastor toward the very end of his time there.
Okay, and then so you go and you join the school there, start teaching. What did that look like?
We were attempting to find people who were interested in pastoral training. But a lot of people at the time were just interested in Bible. And that's really good. You don't say no to that, right? So we had a lot of overlap between church membership and student body at the time. And we were teaching the Bible, spent a lot of time with our coworker Jonathan Moore in curriculum development. And what does it look like to have an Old Testament overview class? How do you cram the Old Testament into 15 weeks of classwork? So we would sit down and bang through a plan and get something like that together and offer a course and adjust based on our own expectations of what things were going to look like and then what things actually look like. Yeah. And modify the program accordingly so that we could effectively teach in a new culture, a new setting. So there were all of those adjustments going on, really, while the plane is in the air. Yeah.
Are there any? If you can't think of anything, it's okay. But any really funny stories from like the very beginning? Like I've heard different guys have all shared about like this is something kind of funny that happened. I just didn't understand the culture quite that well yet. As you're adjusting.
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think a heart revealing moment was when I had seen a special being advertised, like an offer, a sale, being advertised at a fast food restaurant, and they had the menu item, but the sale had concluded. There was nothing in the signage, to indicate that the sale had concluded. So as an American, I'm, essentially treating it like it's a contract written in blood, or carved into stone, and steam coming off of my head, and they're like, what's this guy's problem?
What do you want? Yeah.
And of course they're the employees, right? Like they have nothing to do with it, right? Yes, exactly. There's no way this is going to result in a resolution. So there were some adjustments to make. Actually, really grateful. I think the Lord, in my upbringing, I grew up in El Paso, Texas, and I feel like the bicultural environment of that city prepared me, stretched me in ways that a typical, mid-American is not stretched. And so then in turn I stretched Jenny in ways that an upstate New Yorker is not typically stretched. So the Lord was getting us ready for those kinds of adjustments.
That's great. So you're there in the school working, training in Bible. What towards the end there, though, you were one of the elders at Emmanuel, right? Right. So what did ministry in that context look like?
So I started off, and we were training pastors. So that was kind of an immediate question. It's like you're training pastors, but you're not a pastor. And at the time, I could answer pretty flatly, like, no, that's the church that has sent me has, sent me for this purpose, to train pastors. And yet, over time, more and more, there was a desire. And part of that came about because we moved from about 12 miles away from the church to less than 2 miles away from the church. And we went from having maybe 3 visitors from the church a year to having 3 visitors from the church a week, not counting like community group, which we ended up hosting quite often. And so just rubbing shoulders with folks all the time, and just the Lord grew a strong desire to help them to be of service within the church. So in 2017, started as one of the elders. There were 3 new elders joining Pastor Ken there. So we formed an elder team, pastor team there, and started work. I ended up working a lot with member care,
Okay.
counseling, coordinating counseling, helping to make sure that no one pastor had too heavy a caseload, making sure that that members who needed particular care, directed and focused care, were being cared for. So that was something that I worked with. We had kind of a mentor couple model for our premarital counseling. So I helped coordinate that with one of the deacons within the congregation. And in addition to that, I did the adult education classes. So early Sunday morning, 9 a.m.
Did you guys have like a set curriculum for that you developed, or how did that work?
We augmented the curriculum that Capitol Hill uses. Yeah, so we had a lot of their courses, but they don't have something that really covers, for instance, the prosperity gospel with any depth,
which would have been big.
And so we developed a course on that, and there were others that we other topics that we drilled down on and spent more time on.
Yeah. How did the pastoral training side of things, did that take a particular shape as like having interns or things like that? What did that look like?
So one of my first responsibilities as a pastor at the church was organizing the church planting internship. So we had that 1 year, we had several guys who were very eager to plant a church, and I don't think we could have afforded to do anything like that every year. But these were guys who were eager to do it, and there were enough of them to do an internship, like a cohort. So we got together a lot of ecclesiology material, walked them through some material that would help lead text to sermon. So essentially one summer, we went through a whole course on text to sermon and did, like you would in a homiletics class, you preach to a small group and they critique you,
get feedback,
get some constructive feedback. So helped coordinate that, and all along during that time there was still a pastor's school going on. So there were students who were not associated immediately with Emmanuel Baptist who were still coming onto the church campus, and we were going through classes, college level essentially classes.
Yeah. When did you, so as part of coming on faculty here, and you were working on it before then, but at some point you decided to pursue PhD work, and you're working on that now at Masters University. What did that look like? When did you kind of decide, I think that's probably something I should do?
Sure. I think Pastor Ken, in his lead pastor role, as he's kind of casting a vision for what he would like to see us do as far as a pastor's training school, was to up the level more to a master's level training. And part of that transition and evolution was to pursue doctoral work for me. And it was something that we had maybe kicked around a little bit, mentioned on the side here and there before that, but that's really when things started to get some momentum.
Yeah, that's good. So then at some point, begin thinking about transitioning back to be on faculty here. How did that come about?
So really, in a way that only the Lord can work out, there were two movements happening at the same time. And on our side in Kenya, there was a pastor friend who had been a member at Emmanuel, had gone to another church, and he was a senior pastor. But due to some issues with visa, it was outside of Kenya that he was working. There was a pressure on him to go back home, to go back to Kenya. And so he's joined the pastoral team there at Emmanuel. He was on his way in, and it made a lot of sense ecclesiologically for them to for Emmanuel to tighten the belt and pay for a second associate pastor rather than expand their staff through me, which they could do indefinitely, free labor, so to speak, because we were kind of under the model that Paul, I think, tongue-in-cheek mentions in Corinthians, where he says, we robbed other churches to serve you. And that's what we were doing. We were being supported by other churches. So I think we were there during an important time. Yeah. I trust that the Lord had us there at the right time.
And seeing a field move towards indigenization.
Right. Too. And it was one step in that direction.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it had been under Kenyan leadership, but even now more so a purely Kenyan indigenous. Yeah. Indigenization. So that was moving on the church side. My other role was with the school, and it was very similar. The month that I left, I got an email at the very beginning of the month from a Kenyan man who was one of my students who had completed. He was completing his last semester, and he was to turn around and teach in an assistant capacity, teach some of the classes that I had been teaching. Yeah. So there were Kenyans taking the roles.
And that's kind of the goal.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's really cool to see. That's what we're looking for as missionaries. Yeah. So that's on the Kenyan side. Yep. On the other side, Pastor Doran calls and says, Dr. Compton is resigning. And
retiring. Yeah, after 40 years.
Retiring.
So we actually did, I don't know if you listened to it, we did an episode with him about his time here.
I listened to it with my kids, actually.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Retiring. And so he asked if I would consider stepping in. And we, talked about it as a family, prayed about it. And after talking with the director of the school and Pastor Ken, got green lights everywhere. It seemed like that was the right decision to make. Yeah. Really grateful for the way the Lord provided clarity in that decision, because I think there's a temptation, because you see that there's more work. The assumption would be that it's my work. Yeah, yeah. And there's always more work to do. Yeah. And so it could be somewhat subjective for a missionary to make that call. And we had home there. Like that had become our home. Yeah. And we had family there. Our church family had become, our closest friends in the world. So it was always going to be very uncomfortable in that sense to leave, and every motivation to take more work and just do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But overwhelming sense afterward was one of relief after we said yes to Pastor Doran, because I think there had been a growing sense that the time is coming. Yeah. And it was hard. It was bittersweet. Sure. Yeah, they were good, tearful goodbyes. Yeah. Everything was, the departure was as good as you could want it to be, which meant it was really hard. Yeah. Yeah, I guess if you have to leave the mission field, that's probably the way to do it. Sure. So praise the Lord for, many faithful years of service there. This might be a little bit of a vain question, and so we'll see. But Solomon would say life is vanity. So, what when you get a call and you hear the words Dr. Compton is retiring, would you like to step in to his position? What do you? Because you had Dr. Compton as a professor. I mean, all of us just think of him as this guy's guy. Like he's the man. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What were you thinking when you got that call? I would never have dreamed of even applying. Yeah. I wouldn't have dared. Yeah. So super grateful for the opportunity. As a seminary student, I probably would have ended up saying, this is a dream come true. Mm-hmm. Of course, we were headed for the field, and I think the timing was such that I'm coming in seeing that the seminary is the support. The seminary is not the thing.
Yeah.
The church is the thing.
Yeah.
And, having pastored, having seen God work among the nations, I think I've got that in my bones, at least right now.
Yep.
We can pray that continues, but that I'm coming in with a recognition of the relative importance of things. But all that said, dream come true. This is great. It's such a huge privilege.
Yeah. We're super excited to have you. So as you think about the upcoming semester and the years, hopefully that you'll have here teaching, what are you most excited about? What are you looking forward to? There's lots of papers you're going to have to grade, which I don't know, for a guy like you, that's probably a lot of fun. But what are you looking forward to? No offense, by the way. That was not intended that way.
No. I think being up in front of people, I like to hear my voice. I like the classroom. Grading papers is not my top my top love. Love reading and can get into the groove with writing. I think again, it's hard to pick a favorite. Mm-hmm. I love the classroom. But I'm grateful to be able to help guys grow in their knowledge of God through a knowledge of the original languages of the Scriptures. One language teacher likens using a translation to kissing your wife through a veil, through the wedding veil. Yes, it's actually your wife, right? You could trust that it's actually her, but there's something in between you and the real thing.
Yeah.
And so to give guys that that immediate contact with the Scriptures as God revealed them in the words that God chose to use, what a privilege! Yeah, that's just great. So I hope I can communicate that zeal to the students, and look forward to seeing how the Lord uses it. Yeah,
that's great. We look forward to having you in class, and I know the students are looking forward to it as well. So thank you, Jeremy, so much for coming on the podcast today.
Great to be here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Theologically Driven. We hope you found this helpful, and if you did, we'd love for you to share it with someone who would also benefit from the podcast. Theologically Driven is a podcast of Detroit Baptist Theological Seminary. If you would like to learn more about our seminary, you can go to dbts.edu.